I've never I've never really looked at someone of a different color and gone, well, I need to treat them differently, positive or negative. And I
Yeah.
wonder if that's the thought of most people.
I do think it is. Look, I truly believe, some people don't like it when I say this, but I think that in the modern Western world, like, look, okay, we all know, look, racism exists. We know
Yes.
this, right? Of course it exists. This because someone will try to say, oh, he's saying racism doesn't exist. No, I've never in my life said racism doesn't exist. Of course it exists. But in the modern Western world, the demand for racism now, I believe, is higher than the supply. I think that's why they're even having to change the definitions, right? They've changed the definition of racism. They've changed the definition of white supremacy. Have you
Mm.
noticed that in 2020, people are talking about white supremacy more than ever in my lifetime? And I'm like, oh, like what is KKK membership rising? Are people becoming neo Nazis or what? And it's like, no, they just changed the definition. So
Yeah.
now white supremacy just means like white, dominance in percentage in an industry, right? You look in this place, oh, it's 90% white, so this is white supremacy. And I'm like, that's not the meaning of white supremacy,
Yeah.
right? Racism has a specific meaning. Racism isn't just this nebulous term that you just throw on absolutely everything and everyone. And also they're totally diluting the words, right? This is what I call label inflation. It's like, look, if everything and everyone is racist, then nobody is. And actually, that's a great way to provide cover for people who genuinely are, because it's already reached the stage now. This probably happened for you as well, where if you hear that somebody is racist, you don't even really take it seriously, right? You kind of think, oh, okay, that probably means they made a good point against a liberal,
Which
right?
is terrible. It's
Yes,
so bad.
yeah,
It's
which is
so
not
bad.
good.
It's the
Yeah, it's
same
like,
with it's the same with sexist. It's the same with
yeah, Nazi.
rape culture. It's the same with
Mm-hmm,
Nazis.
mm-hmm.
I get Nazi, fascists, and white supremacists on the regular now, and I'm just like, nah, I'm not. that's
Yeah,
my comeback. I'm like, what are you talking about?
yeah, and but it gets to the stage where you don't even want to or have to defend yourself. You're just like, oh, you might even just agree and amplify. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah, sure, I'm a Nazi. You know what I mean? And it's like, the people who have these genuine ideologies are few and far between, but they do exist, right? There are probably, I don't know, 5,000, 10,000 legitimate white supremacists still in America or, around Europe. There will certainly be thousands and thousands of legitimate white supremacists and neo Nazi sympathizers. So it's quite useful to have a word to distinguish those people, right? Because then, I mean, it was funny the other day in a British paper or something online, they were trying to describe someone who was like actually far right, and they then had to say extreme far right
Oh, for fuck's sake.
because they've already called all the normal conservatives far right,
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, you've actually got someone who legitimately is far right, so you now have to say extreme, extreme, super far right, and it's just like, can we use these words properly? Let's use these terms properly, because the point of language is to be able to understand the world and to be able to distinguish and delineate between things. So if I started calling everyone who's just like a normal liberal, a classic liberal, if I started calling all of them communists, right? Then what do I now call someone who actually like supports Stalin, believes in all the ideas of Lenin, is a hardcore Marxist, wants to overthrow capitalism? I've got nothing left for them now, because it's like, well, you've called everyone else that, and this is what's been happening over the past decade, right? I've been called a white supremacist,
Mm.
right? How stupid can it get? I saw an article online talking about the rise of multi-ethnic white supremacy, suggesting that black people and brown people, etc., are now also supporting white. And you're just like, dude, like,
But rationally
stop.
thinking, why would you bet against yourself? Why are you
You
going
know,
to
just
throw
like
your own game?
they've been doing their diversity hiring, and it's just like, come on, like, this is just it's so obviously stupid.
Yeah.
And I don't think people should even entertain it. I think like that people who write this kind of stuff, we need to stop like entertaining complete idiots. And like, we need to stop letting people who are actually mentally ill set all the rules for everybody else who is not. And this is what's been happening, right? If someone before was like totally crazy and deluded, you'd be like, okay, that person is crazy. Now it's like, okay, let's give them a newspaper column. Let's
Blue check mark on Twitter.
literally let's give them a blue check mark on Twitter. Let's make them the moderator. Let's make them a moderator on Twitch. Let's do and I'm just like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, if someone needs help, like, help that person. But you don't just, it's like you're always trying to just like sort of bend backwards and cater to absolutely everything. And I think that's one of the, I think that's one of the sort of weak, I think that's sort of the weak underbelly of a very liberal society, which is it gets to the point where it's just like it becomes super tolerant of things that probably shouldn't be tolerated, and deeply intolerant of things that actually are normal and sane and rational. That's this whole cancel culture thing, right? I'm sure you get messages, emails every day from people who are working in different places or who are at school and who are at uni, and they're like, you know what? I'm afraid to just voice the fact that I voted for Trump, or that I voted for Brexit, or I voted conservative, or I'm actually kind of, I've had people who are Christian who are like, yeah, I'm a Christian, but like I can't talk about that and I'm just like, really, you live in England,
Yeah.
and you're afraid to voice the fact that I'm like, what is going on here? How come you can, I mean, look, again, in the West, if you're in the UK, if you're in all these countries, you could go on TV, you could go on Twitter, you can say, like, you can crap on Christianity all day long, right? But they wouldn't dare say anything about Islam,
No.
for example, right? And I'm not like an anti-Islam person. I grew up in Saudi Arabia or whatever. Like, I respect various religions, but it's amazing to me how that double standard I do find very interesting. And it always runs in one direction. And I'm kind of like, that's interesting. So this person will, they'll say this or they'll say that or they'll do this and they'll do that, and they think they're all edgy and whatever. And then I'm like, okay, so why don't you do the same with other things? And they're like, oh, no, like, that's not allowed. And it's just, it reveals the cowardice behind a lot of these people, because they just, they'll pick on what they think is like a weak target, or what they think is politically correct or acceptable or whatever, but they won't do it in other directions. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, that sort of reveals you for